Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Hero Examination, featuring the Fantastic Four from Fantastic Four First Steps. Considered Marvel's first family, they are one of the most iconic group of heroes in the Marvel Universe, in the vein of Spider-Man and Wolverine, and were finally brought to the screen in all their glory. So, let's take a look at the Fantastic Four. Also, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. It will greatly help the channel. They start off as a group of astronauts, ready to test out Reed's new rocket. However, while in space, an accident had occurred, giving them all superpowers, and immediately were shown their good nature, as soon as they all find out they have powers, they start to do good in more ways than one, not just save the day and fight bad guys of all shapes and sizes, but also help out with little things like teaching and public issues, becoming celebrities with almost everyone around the world knowing their names and respecting them. We also see merchandise around them and cartoons made about them. And from how the city looked in the 60s in this dimension, we can also infer that Reed Richards had a hand in improving the city, making the city a futuristic version that we only see in depictions of the future in the 60s in our dimension. Before the accident, we also see the four on the news while on the ship. We can infer that they already were used to presenting themselves to the public, showing off the good they were doing. With Reed Richards being more invested with helping the world with his inventions, and Sue and Johnny helping Reed out, and Ben being Reed's best friend also helping him out. Now, onto them as individuals, starting with Reed Richards, otherwise known as Mr. Fantastic. From the start of the film, Reed is a smart thinker who tries to use his brain power to help mankind. However, his mistake with the ship unfortunately caused an accident that gave Ben his rock form. Once he was given powers, he probably thought the next best thing for him to do was use his newfound gifts to help better mankind, as he already had those ambitions in the past, as his original superpower was his intelligent mind, and now he has other powers to use to help better society. Then we have Susan Storm, who is the heart of the team. We see her try to maintain diplomacy amongst the family, acting as Reed's grounded partner and Johnny and Ben's emotional support, often both encouraging them as well as making sure they don't lose themselves. And we see these skills even further when she starts a future organization that maintains global peace, and this helped put a stop to the Mole Man's invasion, making her somewhat the diplomat of the group and a peacekeeper, which probably helps maintain the Fantastic Four's public image as more than just crime fighters. She uses her powers a lot more frequently too, as she's more often disappears when she needs to get away or sneak around into enemy territory, which heighten her stealth skills. And she also uses force fields, making her quite literally a force to be reckoned with, as she is able to defend from all attacks and even hit people with them at full force, making her the most powerful member. Then we have Ben and Johnny. Johnny Storm, otherwise known as the Human Torch, tries to make himself look heroic, and do his part when surrounded by worthwhile people like Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Though he's not a super genius or a strong diplomat as Reed and Sue are, he does what he can to at least stand next to them, which is probably why we see him trying to make himself more seen in the public eye, and trying to show off things like his costume designs. This is also evident because we see him always taking the first move towards saving the day, like him going to the Silver Surfer to stop her when she says their planet will be destroyed. His powers of fire give him the ability to fly, making him great for being fast and thinking on his feet. But this also means he actually has to control it more, or he burns somebody. This also may have boosted his opinion of himself, as now he has power that makes him stand out more. Then we have Benjamin Grimm, otherwise known as The Thing. Unlike the other versions of The Thing we've seen in the past, he seems to have slightly moved past his appearance as a monster, being more jovial and jokey even towards Johnny Storm. They have some banter, but for the most part it's harmless. This was likely due to people seeing past his appearance because he's now a celebrity, as we see him try to impress kids, which only further makes him proud of himself. They all seem to be pretty comfortable with their lives until one day, Sue gets pregnant, and this is a shocker considering Sue and Reed tried for a while. This automatically causes a reaction in the public, as the whole world is excited about the new baby, all while Reed goes into massive panic mode. and we get a joke from Ben that actually becomes a key detail in his character. Whenever something happens that makes him feel scared, he panics in his lab and goes over what to do. And he does just that, making sure to do tests on the baby to make sure he's normal, instead of building a crib, in which Sue calls him out on. He's being so focused on what the outcome might be that he loses sight on the little moments that truly matter. It gets even worse when the Silver Surfer shows up, an alien being from another world who works for an alien being known as Galactus. She has targeted Earth for annihilation. With them being the protectors, they are confident that they will be able to stop this threat. And once again, we see Reed somewhat panicked due to Galactus' unknown nature and status, and tries to instead talk to him. Once they head off, they are met with a choice that unfortunately they couldn't make. Trade their son, who is supposedly very powerful, and he will spare their world. They say no, of course, and they unfortunately have to tell the press this, that they haven't given their baby up for the safety of the planet. And this puts their vision as a family and heroes in opposition, as giving the baby to Galactus is the easy way to fix it all, as that would save countless lives. But they're also a family, and giving their son to a Titan-sized alien is not what parents do. But unfortunately, the reputation of the Fantastic Four, made as world's protectors, is too big, and once they couldn't live up to protecting them, they instantly felt let down and emotionally frustrated at this. And the people constantly remind them that they're undermining their jobs as heroes. These conflicts really do bring out a lot of their inner turmoil as characters, starting with the Human Torch. When he sees the Silver Surfer speaking a language that he recognizes, he tries to tell the three what he heard, and though they listen, it's clear that they are slightly dismissed by it, thinking that because of his somewhat hinted playboy persona, and she's a woman who he's trying to impress, they don't take his claim too seriously, and this only made him want to keep digging to decipher her language even more, to really prove himself beyond just that label. Then there's Ben Grimm, and we see him walking through the city, and he's met with some people who criticize him for not giving the child up, basically rejecting him. And though it's not as overt, he possibly could be feeling his status as an iconic superhero is the reason why people appreciate him. And without that, people will start thinking he's a monster, which is possibly why he refuses to see the teacher after he was invited to the synagogue. Then we have Reed Richards, who was already pretty anxious, but now we see him struggling to find the best solution to stop Galactus. And he slips out that the logical way to do it would be to give up his child. Of course he didn't mean to say this, as it's obviously a way to cope with the stress he's under, as hinted before, but this unfortunately really frustrates Sue Storm, saying sometimes she hates the way he thinks. Speaking of Sue, we see her get increasingly stuck too, and we soon find out the reason why. When she makes a speech to the press, she says that her mother died in a car crash, and her father, even though he tried, wasn't always there, which could indicate that Sue Storm had to grow up faster than most, and keep her family and loved ones together like Johnny Storm. Then, once she married Reed and had a kid with him, she doesn't want her son to suffer the same fate she went through. However, being the city's peacekeeper, she tries to appease them by saying they're not going to abandon them either, and they will get through this as a family. And this seems to inspire the people, and maybe also inspire Reed to think clearly and come up with a solution. And he comes up with the idea to teleport the whole planet, but that doesn't work because the Silver Surfer stops this plan, and this is where Johnny tries to help. And her speech might give some insight into Johnny's character too. Sue mentions her family had troubles, and Johnny was possibly raised by Sue, and thinks that she made a lot of sacrifices for him, and so he believes that he owes it to her to protect her too, even if it's at the cost of his own life. And he tries to do his best with what he has, like trying to decipher the Silver Surfer's language after hearing about it. This is best exemplified when he's talking to the Silver Surfer. He finds out that she joined Galactus to spare her world, but once Johnny makes her hear all the planets and people she helped wiped out, she becomes more sympathetic to the people of those planets. Then Johnny Storm offers himself as a replacement instead of Richard, the baby. This once again is showing Johnny's bravery and need to prove he could be just as helpful This also could be an attempt to be like Reed and Sue as he tries to be technical and negotiable. Then there's the final battle where Reed thinks of a plan to send Galactus back, and at first he hesitates, saying he could find another way, but Sue picks up on what he's saying and she points out that there is no other way, realizing that if there is a chance to keep all of them safe, the planet and her family, she's determined to take the risk without a second thought, as she has always been more firm while Reed was always second guessing on what he needs to do. We also see Ben finally go meet the teacher at the synagogue, saying he came to see her, obviously possibly enjoying himself on his possibly last journey. As the final battle commences, Reed tries to distract him, but it unfortunately doesn't work, and Galactus manages to take the baby anyway. However, Sue uses the full extent of her powers to push Galactus into the portal, releasing all her desires to protect her planet and her family into one force field, able to push a powerful being into the portal. Then Johnny turns it on, but unfortunately it still didn't work, but thanks to Johnny talking to the Silver Surfer, she manages to push him into the portal, saving the planet. And so, that was the Fantastic Four, celebrity heroes who use both their image, powers, and skills to protect people and maintain peace. But they were also a family who always had each other's backs, as they each brought the best out of each other, and only together were they able to save the world and become heroes. Thanks for watching.